Okay, well, I'm joined by Jorge Armanet, who is the co-founder of HealthUnlocked, which is a online health platform based on building community around health concerns. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
So I've got a few questions written down for you. So how did HealthUnlocked come about, and what was the initial idea, who were the ideas, and how was it first developed?
So it came about like 5 years ago, and 5 years ago I had my own experience with healthcare was as a consumer, but I was quite fascinated by the way in which social technologies were evolving and the way they were offering opportunities to change stuff in the system. So I was interested in specific areas where you could do some social change. And one night I went to a party here in London, and I started to talk with my co-founder, who is a doctor, and we talk about the normal things about people being scared about the future and the future of healthcare in particular. So last year, for instance, the NHS spent £110 billion, which is double what they spent 10 years ago. So we started to talk about that, and at some point he said to me, I have 7 minutes to assess whether a patient will go for surgery or not. And I thought that was, I respected the training of the doctor, but I said, you can't take a decision like that without knowing much about me. So we started to talk about, well, where is all the information from the patients, the experience? Where is that stored? Where are the patients in the first place? And we did whatever anyone would do. We put ourselves in the shoes of a patient, and we Googled stuff. Normal queries like ovarian cancer, symptoms, or hypothyroidism, diagnosis, things like that. And that's when the revealing part came, which was all the results were editorial content. That means like content that has been published and republished for centuries by the usual source of knowledge in medicine or in the world, which was in this case the doctors, the academia, the pharmaceutical industry, and all that knowledge was kind of in the third person. It was never with the patient voice. So we decided to build a social network where patients will share their experiences, to put that knowledge in one place, and then the rest came out of that very simple idea, but it was a very challenging idea at that time, technically, and also because it was very difficult to ignite the process, not only investment-wise, but mostly product-wise.
And did you know a lot of people personally that had any issues that you would have thought would have benefited from HealthUnlocked, or was it more of just an observation between you and Matt, your co-founder?
Well, luckily not. I didn't have the personal experience of caring of somebody or something like that. But obviously, you see how you can empathize with the world and see how things are going and overpopulation and the costs and all a very scary thing. And in the UK we have a very good system that is universal, but if you really think in universal healthcare systems, you need to change the way we do things. So that was more the driver, I would say. Okay.
And how was it funded in the early stages?
Well, we got a first angel investor that put like £50,000. When we started, we were having just an idea really and a prototype of a website, and he trusted us, and we just went with that money, and then we started to fundraise smallish rounds, and then we keep fundraising. We have only individuals, both in London and Silicon Valley, which is interesting. But at some point, you also want some expertise in your investment.
And have you not found that yet?
Yes, we have done a lot in the last 12 months, I would say, and also you get to know the people, and also the things that you need to prove that you have something. And once you prove that you have something, then you have good help. At the beginning it's money, because it's what you need the most, but then it's money plus advice and so on.
Sure. And so when you first started, neither you nor Matt had technological backgrounds for creating websites and those sorts of platforms. So how challenging was it when you first started up the website?
Well, I think one of the things I was working at that time in theory related with technology, systems in particular, and social networking. And one of the beliefs we started with that was very crucial in the way we developed the technology was that the technology is not a commodity but a creative process. And as a creative process, you really don't need to know much about the technology when you start. You need to know very well what your aims are and what your goals are, and then work very hard to find the right model. I mean, in some cases you start a company knowing very well what your product should be. When we started, there was nothing like this, and there was no way to copy or to follow. So we knew that it was going to be a very painful, iterative process, and we took it as a creative one rather than a more technology-driven one.
Sure. And so now, how many people have you got working here?
We have 18 people.
Okay. And how do you go about assembling your team that you've got working?
Well, that's the one of the most difficult and painful, unrewarding things of building companies. I think is your people is everything, basically. And at the beginning, you just get what you can, or you're lucky, and so on. But over the time, you start developing really strong recruitment processes, and you start putting. As a CEO, I mean, 50% of my time is probably trying to make the team work, and then finding people that can leverage the existing team. And we opted for a route that is more about building culture rather than getting talent, if you want. Mm-hmm. So obviously we have a very talented team, but if you think most of the people in the company has been for years now, and that's because we've been always trying to look for developing the roles for the people rather than getting the people for a role. And the reason is both cultural, but also more practical, because you change the needs so rapidly that you need to get people that are capable to adapt to those changes. So if you look for one thing in particular, I would say you look for people that are capable to learn, and that's kind of the unique attribute that is essential, I would say. And
so at the moment you're just based in the UK, and you mentioned that you have some members in America already.
Yeah, we have our head of revenue operations in New York, and we have our head of the artificial intelligence in Australia.
Okay.
That is now building a really interesting team with a pan-European consortium. So we're leading a pan-European consortium for improving the artificial intelligence that we're using with data scientists, and that's going to be a kind of more European, Australian team.
Okay, and do you see those to America and Australia? Do you see those as areas that you're going to expand to in the future, expand your website to?
Well, America, yes, definitely. Mm-hmm. But I mean, in Australia, we have a strong presence already in Australia and in the US. So about 30% of our traffic is from the US, 10% is from Australia, 40% from the UK. So yes, we have an advantage because we have a very large amount of user-generated health content in English, probably the largest in the world. So that boosts our traffic everywhere in English. So we would go everywhere where English is first language to start, I think.
Sure.
That also includes India for us.
Okay, sure,
where we already have a big traction there.
Okay, and do you see maybe one day expanding to foreign languages? So
yeah, we're currently in Spanish and Portuguese as well,
mm-hmm.
And the artificial intelligence has been built in 11 languages.
Oh, really?
So the system is thinking in 11 languages. We offer the interface in 3 languages now.
Okay, and how do you see the funding for this going? Like now you've secured more rounds of funding. How do you see it becoming a sustainable economic business?
Yeah, we will prepare another fundraise by the end of this year, coming from a lot of things that we're going to release in the next month, and that fundraise is going to fund the next phase of growth that is going to consider expansion. So, what type of investors are we going to look? We're not sure yet, but we've been playing normally with two routes, or with one, which is the venture capital type of money. That's where we have more relationships and connections. But also because of the kind of specific inflection point we're also open to explore like more partnerships type of funding with companies that would benefit and will create the growth more overnight rather than building our own thing. But still, this company is quite independent, so we can do anyway.
Okay, and how have you developed your business model so far?
Well, very difficult because healthcare is a very complex sphere, and at the beginning you start trying to. One way of answering that is actually we developed the business model by closing doors really over the last years. It was very difficult. In what we do, we have a large audience of people, very well profiled, easy to access, and so on. So you could do a lot of different things, and healthcare has a lot of different stakeholders and players. So in the last 3 years or 4 years, it was all about keeping a few revenue lines on and closing doors, like saying no to most of the things. But now we are very clear on the kind of two main routes, and one is more the B2B side, which is what we do in hospitals. So we are today in 65 hospitals with applications that are using our technology, and the other is what we call the B2C2B. So it's matching services and products and treatments and content in many forms and shapes with the audience we have in a very profiled way, and essentially, if you think it's all about that, it's about creating value to the user, and while creating value to the user, trying to monetize in the transaction. So that's at the end. We kept that focus for the last 4 years, and now we are starting to open it for business.
Okay. Do you want to give me a rundown of how the site currently works and how you plan on developing the technology of it, and how you plan on developing your idea?
Yeah. So we are like in a third phase of development, I would say. We launched a whole new platform like 4 months ago. This new platform is fully mobile and with the artificial intelligence already surfacing the users' journeys. So now the next big thing is a new native app that is coming, and that app is going to have all the features of the website platform, but also will have a sort of WhatsApp messaging system that will allow the users to create their own channels for discussions with people that are near them, both in terms of the interest they have, but also in terms of location, which is also embedded now in the system. All these features are working in the web platform. So that thing is going to power a lot of new sort of interactions that we expect to both bring new traffic, new users, but also a lot of more engagement, which is our main KPI. And then the other thing is how you keep evolving the intelligence, and how the intelligence is capable to recommend the best possible journey for you as a user looking for an answer or for matching with the experience of another person. So those two things are taking all the next year pipeline of product development.
And how have you gone about marketing it so far?
So we are now in the marketing side in a very that's a really good point in relation to the product. So our aim obviously is to grow and to grow in terms of numbers of members, interactions, engagement. And we're doing that by improving the product, but also by partnering with other organizations. So the type of partnerships that we're doing now we have a very large partnership with the NHS Choices platform here, where we syndicate our contents there. There's a lot of contents, and we're trying to do that with other big kind of media portals, like newspapers here in the UK and in the US. So that's from the marketing point of view. That's kind of the main action that we're taking care of now.
Okay, and how do you see your product interacting with the development of health tech as it's grown with, say, wearable technology that monitors your health and that sort of thing?
Yeah. So the HealthUnlocked technology is a platform that can interact with all sorts of other technologies. So we have a ring of APIs, which are gates for other systems to connect with our system, and that is currently the format that is taking our interaction with application in hospitals. So we can connect with all sorts of applications. It's really interesting what is happening in the health space, because in the last five years ago there was really very small investment from venture capital in healthcare, and that investment has grown massively in the last years. Last year was double the previous year, and the previous year was triple the previous year. And most of that investment is going into consumer-facing technology. And we are a consumer-facing platform, but we can't, we can't resolve the problems of all healthcare issues, because you have as many healthcare topics as people you have. So we're adopting the same methodology that we adopted when we started, which was to build kind of cohorts driven by, in the platform is by patient organizations, charities, that they curate the contents for very specific, for everything, for every condition, for every well-being topic. And with the applications, it's the same. We're not going to develop applications ourselves. We do it now, but we're not going to do it in the future. We're going to allow other people to develop their applications, test them in our environment. By that I mean offering it to real people in real life, see how that works, finding ways to facilitate the process for the developers to improve those applications, and make those successful, like the communities. It's exactly the same concept.
Brilliant. Okay, one final question then. How do you see the company developing over the next couple of years?
So we are currently, we expect, given the pipeline of development and the pipeline of partnerships, we expect to triple the membership base in the next 12 months.
Right.
And we not only, match contents with audiences, we match real people with real services, and that allowed us to double the revenues last year, and we are tripling in the next 12 months. And with that on track, then the next investment is going to be about expanding the platform and growing that model, which is already proved as the product is proved.